Welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. The Pharmacy Leaders Podcast is a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, with interviews and advice on building your professional network, brand, and a purposeful second income from students, residents, and innovative professionals.
Welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast. We are live here in Nashville at APhA 2018, and I'm here with Anthony DeAngelis III, who has a tremendous following up in, they call it a small state, but it's got a big reach, and they're doing some great things up there. So I wanted to talk to him about what's going on with his chapter, and then what's going on at URI. So welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Guerra, for having me on your podcast. This is a really great opportunity, and I feel very, very humbled. This is my first APhA annual conference, and I certainly have had a blast so far, and it's been really enjoyable. So thank you so much for selecting me as a winner for your contest.
Cool. So let's start off with, so a number of people are wondering whether they should go to Seattle next year or will, that are, behind you. Tell me a little bit from, landing to where we are now, what you did. So take your time. Start with what you did first when you first got here, and then kind of take me through the days that you've had at your first APhA national meeting.
All right, so I was actually supposed to come here on Tuesday because this is actually during the URI spring break right now, which was really awesome that the conference fell during spring break, but we had a huge winter storm up north, so I didn't get until Wednesday, but that's okay. Still here. So Wednesday I kind of explored the city a little bit. Thursday, doing the same. I went and visited some Nashville sites, such as the Parthenon, went around on Broadway and did different things on Thursday to enjoy the day. And then we had Friday, which was the first day of the conference. So I went to a couple of sessions the past couple of days. One of them was an APhA interest session for students about community-based pharmacy residencies and fellowships, which I know I do want to work in community, so I wanted to go to that one specifically to see what it was about because I wanted to find out more information about that. I've also been at the APhA Student House Delegates listening to the resolutions. I also attended a session for first-time annual students, if it was their first annual, and what to do, and I got to network there. And then one of the other things I did was I actually participated in APhA Annual's Leadership Training Series, which you can do at the mid-year regional meetings, the MRM meetings. I've already done 2, so this is my 3rd one, so I actually get to get a certificate now for that, so it was pretty awesome. Got to listen to a speaker from Walmart for that.
Okay. Well, let's kind of break some of these down. Tell me especially about the leadership training. So you go in, tell me what they talked about within the session, and then what value somebody would get coming to a future APhA meeting in the session.
Yeah, so at the leadership training session, the speaker from Walmart talked about how our healthcare system is kind of moving away from a transactional fee-based model over to a quality measure model, based upon patient outcomes, and it's really focusing more on the patient in the future. There's a new model for healthcare that pharmacists are leaning towards in the healthcare system is leaning towards, called the triple aim. So he talked about that, stressed the importance of that, and people got to ask questions as well. I do feel that students can really get value out of this. I certainly feel like I've learned a lot during that meeting.
Okay, so you've come here, but let's back up maybe a little bit and talk about what it is that made you come here in the first place, and a little bit about networking, because you're connected that you had so many people, liking your Facebook page, but tell me a little bit about what it is to network for you. It sounds like when somebody asks for help, you volunteer for a number of things. So let's start with before you came to APhA, then we'll talk a little bit about networking at APhA. So maybe a little advice about networking.
Okay. So what got me here, so I've been in APhA-ASP at my school, actually right out of high school since I was a freshman. Something that's really, really cool about my program being a 06 program is we can get pre-professional pharmacy students involved. I've been telling people here at Annual from other schools that, and they're kind of shocked. They're like, oh, wow, that's really amazing. That's so cool. So that's honestly what's led me to this point. It's been a dream of mine to always go to Annual since I was in my pre-professional years, and I'm so excited to actually get the opportunity to be here now. as I've gone to annual, I've gone to some MRMs. Like at the beginning, networking was a little scary for me. I've always been an extroverted person, but it was that concept of going up to like a completely new person that kind of scared me at first, because it's like I'm really an extrovert around my friends and like things like that, but it was very intimidating at first at my first MRM. After being to a few regional conferences and now being at annual, I do feel that you get very comfortable at networking and way more comfortable at networking. Just a simple question is, hey, is this your first time at a regional meeting? Or, hey, is this your first annual? Can really start up a conversation, and you'd be surprised. Actually, one of the first people that I met at annual ended up being from the University of Arkansas Medical Center, and I started talking to him about how we Skyped one of the deans at his school a couple weeks ago in one of my classes. So, it's just like pharmacy is a very small world, and you come to realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell me a little bit about some of the policies that you're seeing and things like that. My understanding is that you went to a couple of the meetings where you kind of get to hear what's going on within APhA. I've been kind of out and about with everybody, so I haven't been able to go into the sessions. What are some of the things that APhA is focusing on now?
So there were 3 resolutions that came to the APhA Student House of Delegates that ended up at the first session yesterday. They were passed, so meaning they'll go to the actual APhA house. One of the big ones was actually expanding services for the LGBTQ plus community, something that everybody felt that in pharmacy school you don't really get like a lot of hands-on experience on how to deal with that patient population per se, and like certain pharmacotherapeutic like recommendations and how to help them out. So it was just more awareness and education for their population and then what affects them in pharmacy. So that was one of the resolutions there. There was also another one which I found very confusing at first until I read some background on it about APhA wanting to encourage any legislation that would oppose DIR fees, retroactive DIR fees in the community pharmacy. And I really didn't know like what that was. I was like, is that like a clawback fee? So I did some, looked at the background and did stuff like that. And basically it's saying that if a patient comes to the pharmacy and gets his prescription, the PBM could come 6 months or up to a year later and charge the pharmacy more money, which ends up resulting in like a loss of profit instead of a profit, I mean. So I found that like very, very interesting. So that actually was passed as well, but there was a lot of debate about that one.
Yeah, I actually met with a friend of mine who works for a PBM, so it's kind of seeing the other side, and my understanding is that these outcomes that you're talking about, bringing pharmacists in, the better a pharmacy does at outcomes, those DIR fees get cleared and you don't even see it, and they actually profit, and then pharmacies that don't do well. So when you tie them to outcomes, I think there's some value in it, but again, I wasn't in there, I don't know, and I certainly don't want to say go DIR fees. I'm certainly not saying that. Well, take us a little bit to the other people that came here. Who do you want to talk about in your group that came here, and then what are their responsibilities?
So from my chapter, I think we had about 10 people come to annual this year. One of my good friends, Rebecca Corvasi, is actually a Region 1 regional delegate. So she has played a big role since she was elected at MRM in the region. She's attended January business meeting and was a big role in the APhA House of Student Delegates. One of my other good friends from my school, Patrick Condon, actually was a Region 1 APhA member at large for last year, 2016 to 2017. So they played some big roles in our chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got quite a mentorship group at URI. So tell me a little bit about your experience at the college itself and how URI prepares you to be a leader and gives you these opportunities.
Yeah, so I really have enjoyed my time at the University of Rhode Island so far. I knew in high school that I honestly wanted to go there. My cousin had actually graduated from the PharmD program there. But yeah, it's been a great experience. I have no regrets about it. My time seems like it's flying very fast. I feel like yesterday I was in my pre-pharmacy years. I'm almost finishing up P2 year, going on to my last year of classes as a P3. It's been such a humbling experience, though. We have such wonderful faculty at the school that you just develop such close relationships with. It really is amazing. You could seek them out for advice on anything, and just constantly our school just like advocates for getting involved, and that's really how they really foster how you can really become a leader in that way. Just always encouraging to go to things and becoming involved in different organizations. But yeah, I do love my school so much.
Well, let's talk a little bit about maybe your future. So you're going to be going into your third year, right? And then APPEs after that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the experiences that you would be looking for in your fourth year as you kind of finish up the third year as you come to APHA. What maybe are one or two rotations that you're thinking, gosh, that would be kind of a cool thing to go to?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I haven't given it I've given it a little thought, but right now I actually am a pharmacy intern at CVS Health. I do find that I like community pharmacy, and so with rotations, I want to see what I can do with that, and if maybe I can do like a different community setting per se. I actually did one of my IPPEs at a Stop and Shop pharmacy and looked and see what a grocery store community pharmacy was like. So maybe it'd be really cool to do an independent pharmacy for my community APhA to get another perspective of the community pharmacy. I actually also just had infectious disease in school, learning the foundations of the disease states and the different disease states and the therapeutics, and actually found that I was really good at it and I really enjoyed it. And one of my faculty members actually has a rotation for infectious disease at the VA, so that was something that I was thinking of looking into as well, seeing if I could get that in my lottery for rotations. But I've talked to a lot of people, and they've really said that rotation can honestly change your mind completely about what you want to do in pharmacy.
So true. It's so true.
So, maybe that'll happen to me, maybe not. I'm just going to try and challenge myself and see what's out there. So
yeah, I've heard that, you want to do rotations as half exploratory and half this is what I think I want to do, and the lottery obviously gives you sometimes it doesn't exactly work out, but sometimes it works out to be exactly what you want. So I've asked you a ton of questions. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that first you want to talk about, and then maybe any shout outs to your the names of your other people that are here that you want to talk about?
All right, so I would just like to give a shout out to one of my professors, Dr. Kelly Orr, for actually posting about your contest and actually showing me about it in the first place.
The professors are on Facebook watching me. That's awesome.
So I'd love to give her a shout out. She has been a great mentor to me. Especially she had started out in community pharmacy before becoming a professor, so I've sought out her advice a lot. Actually, just last week I went into her office just kind of like having a little crisis about the future, but asking for advice and stuff.
Those happen.
Yes, I'd like to give her a shout out. I don't think so.
And nothing you want to say before we sign off? Anything you're looking forward to with the last day here of the meeting?
It's gone by so fast, and I'm getting so sad that it's coming to a close that I have to go back home, possibly to more snow, unfortunately. It's been beautiful down here. I'm just like, oh my goodness, I don't want to go. APHA 2018 has been such a great experience, and now I'll definitely look into going into APHA 2019 if possible as well in Seattle. But I think one of the last things I want to say is just don't be afraid to talk to people, branch out, try new things. If anything, that's what I've learned through all of this is I met some wonderful people through APHA and all my other organizations, and I've seen some new friends here. I've seen some old friends here, made some new ones, and I would just say don't be afraid to challenge yourself.
All right. Well, Anthony, thanks for being on the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Guerra.
Support for this episode comes from the audiobook Memorizing Pharmacology, a relaxed approach. With over 9,000 sales in the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia, it's the go-to resource to ease the pharmacology challenge. Available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon.com, in print, ebook, and audiobook. Thank you for listening to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. Be sure to share the show with the hashtag #PharmacyLeaders.